Hello and welcome to Coffee Lovers TV. On the show today, I'm going to be unboxing and brewing on and kind of having a review, first impressions review of the Espro press. Now, I've done a review of Espro's travel press, which I'll link to below. So the press aspect of this brewer is the same. You can see on the picture, they incorporate this kind of basket style filter. And I'll show you all that once we unbox it and everything. But you end up with multiple layers of filter. And what the Espro press does that's unique amongst French presses is give you a much, much more filtered cup of coffee. So it's a cleaner, crisper French press. We're gonna go ahead and open it up and do a little unboxing. Very well packed. That was probably a really dangerous idea, but very well packed. All right, there we go. So that's pretty much it. It's a box. And there we go. That is nice. I do love a stainless steel French press, and this is a really nice looking one too. Good handle, feels good in the hands. Options for holding it. Feels like it probably pours pretty well. And, ooh, that goes in there pretty darn well. So, there you go. Double wall insulated French press. And this is where the magic is, in their filter. So, let me take the instructions out here. Don't really need to worry about that. Pretty much everything else about this is straightforward except for this filter. So let's not unscrew that part. This is what we need to undo. So here we are. Separate to clean, attach to filter. So this is the sort of basket-shaped filter. I don't know exactly the reasoning for this shape. It's interesting that when you're pressing down, you're pushing coffee against this solid block, and it must go up around the sides and then filter through. I'm assuming that they tested out multiple filters flat, and that this performed better. It's also good to note that the filter is very, very fine. I don't think that's something I can show on the camera here, but we're dealing with a very fine mesh filter. Like, you almost can't see the mesh kind of fineness. It looks like the inner one is a bit finer than the outer one, actually. Or maybe it's the other way around? I honestly can't tell. They look different. Here we are. We got our French press. Works as you'd expect a French press to work. I'm gonna be brewing on this really shortly. I do wanna see if they say anything about how much to use. So this is the 32 ounce. They actually have some pretty good guidelines. Well, reasonable guidelines anyways. So there's a min and a max line in here. This should be the 32 ounce one. Yeah, 32 ounces. 950 mils for coffee. I'm betting that's gonna be harder to press than normal. So in here, and I don't know if that'll show up, but there's a min and a max line. They have one for coffee and a higher one for tea. So as far as how much coffee to use, they say for the max line, that's going to be, they say 40 to 60 grams of coffee. So I'm gonna lead on the higher side and say 60 grams, since I'm going to be brewing with this Ethiopia today. Actually, it's going to be a light roasted coffee. This is roasted on a bellwether. So I'm going to go 60 grams of coffee, and that means 60 grams of coffee will give 960 mils of water. So that actually might be a little too much. I'm going to go on the reserve side and say I'll use 50 grams of coffee, because that'll be 800 grams of water, 800 mils. And this 32 ounce says it's 950. I don't know if that's to the max line. So that's something I don't know yet. So I'm gonna find out. I don't wanna put too much in here and then overflow and just have a mess. So I'm gonna start with 50 grams of coffee and 800 grams of water, and we'll see where that takes us in respect to the brewer. Now, before I do that, I'm gonna give this a quick rinse and a quick light wash, a little soap and water. That's something you really should do the first time you do this, and like you saw, I just took this out of the box. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pause here, I'm gonna give this a wash out, I'm gonna brew the coffee, and I'm gonna come back with it brewed, and then we'll try it out, and I'll give some final thoughts. All right, so I did, like I said, 50 grams of coffee, 800 milliliters of water, and that actually took me to the minimum line. So I could have gone 69, 50, and that probably would have been just fine. So I think that they've built this such that the maximum line that they have in here, which is like here-ish, that's actually 32 ounces. And then there's this extra buffer for the giant size of their filter. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and press. Press is super easy. Up until we get in there a little bit, and there's some resistance. That's one thing I have noticed about the Espro, is that, and I mean, probably owing to the fact that you have the double wall filter there, is that it does press a little bit more. There's a bit more pressure in the press than the other French presses, I guess what I'm getting at. But I think that you don't want to really push down hard. I'm just kind of using sort of half the weight of my arm on this just to make sure it keeps going. And my main goal is to just keep the grounds below. I think even in the Espro, if you were to push really hard, you're gonna get grounds coming up the sides. And you just don't want that. All right. Still hot. Insulated French press. But so I made what you might consider an odd choice for a French press in this light roasted Ethiopian coffee. But there's very good reason for that. And that has to do with a bit of the magic with the Espro. Because of that double filter, really fine mesh design, you can actually, you can start pushing the fineness of your grind. So I've actually ground a little bit finer than I would for most French presses. Because it's going to be filtered out. In short, it does a really good job with light roasted coffees. I think if you really always brew with like light or medium roasted coffees, and you occasionally want to have a French press, then this is the kind of thing you really want to consider. As it still needs to cool, but I can pick up on like the brighter nuances of the coffee. It definitely has the body. Again, there's like the oiliness of a French press. Not like super oily, but it actually almost kind of comes across as if I took a regular French press and scooped the top off, which is something I like to do sometimes if I have a regular French press. I'm not sure that that's even necessary in this, because this comes off as pretty crisp and clean. It's a good clean, makes a good clean French press, much cleaner than pretty much any other French press that I've had. So trying to think if I have some other things I can think to say about it. You can feel the heat. I brewed with 207 degree water in here, so that's why it's like it's gonna stay hot for a long time, and needs to cool down before you actually drink it. But it does a really good job of holding on to the heat, although actually getting quite hotter at the top here. The lid also getting some heat now. But the handle's staying pretty good, pretty cool. And you saw as I was pouring that it's nicely balanced. So actually the bottom is cool. That's really nice. So I can actually have this right on the counter and not worry about needing to put it on something safe for heat. So that is the Espro press. And like I said, I'll link to their travel press version. I've done 2 videos on their travel presses now. They're traditional travel press and their lightweight one. So I'll link to those. You can check them out. If you're looking for just a regular French press, really hard to go wrong with this. I'll link to that below. Go get one. As far as cleaning goes, you're going to run into the same challenges as any French press. You've got to get the grounds out of the bottom. One of the reasons I'm such a big fan of a stainless steel press is because it's just so much easier to clean. You don't have to worry about easily shattering glass. The filter comes apart super easy. You saw that early on. And I did clean it. Didn't do it on camera, of course, but I did clean it, and it cleans really, really simply. There aren't really any cracks or crevices where stuff is going to get stuck. Like any French press, you can unscrew the plunger handle and take it apart. So that's something, you know, you might do every now and then. But as a traditional cleaning after pressing, you can just rinse everything off and you'll be good to go. Well, that's all I can think to say for now. If you have any questions about the Espro or French pressing or anything like that, don't hesitate to ask. Leave your questions in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.